This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 913 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Greetings, horse people. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is an excerpt from the Horsemanship Radio Show here on the Horse Radio Network. Host Debbie Laux is joined by Dr. Robert Miller, who offers some advice on helping our horses enjoy long and fruitful careers. And we'll get right to our tip after this nutritional minute from Kentucky Performance Products. Spooky, tense, edgy, unfocused. If these words describe your horse, a calming supplement could make training easier and riding more fun. Trouble-free paste from Kentucky Performance Products is scientifically formulated to support proper nervous system function and help your horse maintain a more confident, focused, and relaxed disposition. Trouble-Free contains a blend of ingredients that support your horse's normal nerve cell and muscle function and is available in a convenient 80cc oral dosing syringe containing two 40cc servings. Ask for Trouble-Free from Kentucky Performance Products at your local feed and supply store or go to www.kppusa.com. And now, on with today's tip.
This week, we have Dr. Robert Miller back with a master training tip.
It turned out the last video I did was called Lameness, Its Causes and Prevention. And I list 11 causes of lameness, which includes things like malnutrition, bad shoeing, bad conformation, wrong work surfaces, and so on, accidents, and so on. Mm-hmm. But in my experience, with so many different disciplines and so many different breeds of horses, the leading cause of lameness that I have seen is too much work at too young an age. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. When I was young, well, we talked about colts. We were talking about 4 and 5 year olds mostly, starting colts. Mm-hmm. Now these horses are competing at 3. They're in futurities at 3. They're working them at 2, at 22 months, even as long as 18 months. It's a very, very cruel and destructive thing. A majority of these horses break down prematurely. So my tip is, if you love a horse, take your time. I have a very extensive library, a book library, and I went through the entire life. Most of these books written in the 19th century, a few in the early 20th century, and some of them way back, like in the 16th and 17th century. And I took out of these books the statements of when you should start a colt. The youngest was 3.
Yeah.
And the oldest was 7. And the average was 4 to 5 years of age.
There you go.
In other words, let them grow up before you start working them to death. There's so much work can be done on the ground early, teaching a horse all kinds of things, starting at birth, and not working them too hard prematurely.
It's a great tip. I love that tip. Do you ever ask people to x-ray for epiphyseals, the epiphyseal closures?
Well, that helps, but that's not the whole story, unfortunately. You can have the epiphyses closed, and it indicates a certain level of growth maturity, but they're not finished. In other words, let me give you an analogy. We see 16-year-olds that have reached their full height. Most of us don't, but some do. That means their epiphyses are closed in their bones, but they're not mature. Mm-hmm. And if you put them to work athletically, too severely, too young, they're going to pay for it later on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We would love to.
Orthopedic physicians who work in sports medicine, and they see the same thing in these kids who are overworked at a very young age. They're usually excellent athletes, but they pay for it for the rest of their lives. Now, the difference between the horse and the human is the human can be arthritic and have a bad knee, bad hip, bad ankles, and you still have a useful life. That's not true of horses. Unless they have breeding prospect, once they go unsound, their career is over.
That's right. That's right. Often a life is over. We would love to see purses in horse racing and other incentives to go to older horses. And people who love horses can get behind that, so that there is an incentive if needed. Yep. I think that's
Absolutely.
What they're looking for. Yeah. Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's a wonderful tip, and I hope everybody will noodle that out and figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah, and let me add this, that starting these young horses and working them so hard, cutting, reining, jumping, whatever, it's profitable for the veterinarian, and it's profitable for the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, untold millions of dollars in profit. But it's very, very disastrous for the horses and for the people who own them.
Yes, thank you. And that's decades of a veterinarian speaking from authority there. Thank you, Bob.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well, there you go. 2 great resources for training or competing young horses without the excess stress on their bodies. You can check out Horse Agility USA or Working Equitation USA. Both of them have less physically demanding in-hand divisions for horses of various ages. And we'll have links to both of them at horsetipdaily.com. Just look for episode 913. And you can listen to more of Horsemanship Radio every week. Just go to horsemanshipradio.com. And you want it all, so you can have all of your Horse Radio Network shows with you wherever you go with the free Horse Radio Network app for iPhone and Android. Just go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network. And thank you very much to Kentucky Performance Products, our sponsor for today's show. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.